This is BJJHOOD, tapping into Jiu-Jitsu lives on and off the mats.
Hello. We are back with the BJJHOOD Podcast. I'm Babi, your host.
And Shae, your co-host.
Now in January, you know already, we're talking to some professionals about things you can do to improve your jiu-jitsu on and off the mats. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube. We're going to have subtitles in Portuguese for all interviews that are in English and subtitles in English for all Portuguese interviews. This one, it's going to be in English. Make sure you're following us on Instagram. That's where we're posting all the information about the next interviews and the next episodes that are coming out. And make sure you follow us on your favorite podcast platform. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, again on YouTube. So make sure you follow us there so you also don't miss every time we have a new episode dropping. It's every Thursday that we have a new episode on the BJJHOOD Podcast. And also your support is always really important. So make sure you share, you comment, you like all the content so we can get to more people. And if you get something that you think that is interesting from the conversation, make sure you share with your friends too. Today with us, Fernanda Melo. Fernanda is a purple belt in Jiu-Jitsu. She's a school owner in Charleston, South Carolina. And she's also a nutritionist. She has 2 kids and has been working for the past 10 years coaching people on how to optimize their overall health. And she's pretty focused on women's health. So we're going to talk to her about nutrition, about her jiu-jitsu history, and everything else. Fernanda, welcome to the BJJHOOD Podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. I wanted to start asking you about your jiu-jitsu journey. Tell me a little bit how it all started.
I started training with Carol Gracie. This was, I believe, maybe 10 years ago. So I was living with her. I moved to her house. She was like, we were both like single, and she was like, let's live together. And then, so I moved to her house, and she was like, okay, you're going to start training jiu-jitsu. And I was like, yeah, I don't see why not, right? There was like all the gis and everything. There was no reason to not train. So we went to her brother's studio, Kyron Gracie. And then Kyron was a really close friend as well. So I started training with them. And then I met my husband, who's also a black belt. And I was training with him. And then I got very involved with like Gracie Barra and everything. And then, it's just like I was addicted to it and never stopped training. Of course, I had 2 kids. So during pregnancy and then postpartum, it was kind of hard to keep training, in the same way. So I kind of found my way of keeping myself on the mats, but also, making sure I was taking care of like other things in my life. So pretty hard balance for moms, right?
Yeah.
And then 2 years ago, we moved from California to South Carolina, Charleston. We decided to move and change a lot of things. My husband used to work for IBJJF for many, many years. And we wanted to change, the lifestyle and everything. He would like travel a lot. And we had so many friends that had academies and like Gracie Barras, and we liked the lifestyle as well. So I was like, let's do this, like let's move. And I had Ian, my oldest, was like at the time he was 6 months. So we did this huge move, and so it took me a while to also find a place to train. There was no Gracie Barra, and jiu-jitsu is not so big. It's kind of it's becoming big in South Carolina, but it's not like California, that you have like so many places to like train. Even like just within Gracie Barra, there's so many places like to visit, which is pretty awesome. So it took us a while to kind of opened the studio, and then there was like mainly like white belts, and so the guys here are like big dudes, like compared to California, you have like smaller guys, a lot of
Yeah.
it's different.
Yeah.
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 So the
Yeah.
guys here are big.
Yeah.
So
Corn fed, they say.
yeah, exactly. So it took me a while to finally start training back in our studio, and then I got pregnant again. And then I was mainly just like doing more like the business side of it, and I would train here and there, and I'm very grateful for everything I learned in my jiu-jitsu journey, and it's good that I never quit. This
Yeah.
is so many times we think about, why am I still training? Like, it's just like hard, but I think once you pass like a fine line, you pass that, and you like, it's so fun, you pass that um ego thing about being good all the time, or like, so it's
Yeah.
just like a fun thing that is just like um it's just like the lifestyle. It's not, it's there's no way to stop from, at this point. So
Well, yeah, with a school now, for sure,
exactly.
right?
And the school grew like pretty fast. In like 1 year we were like, better than we thought. So, and we were able to create a very family environment. A lot of girls train too, which is really good. We have a good group of girls, and that like kind of how I navigated through like jiu-jitsu and
Yeah.
my life here in the US.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have those moments. Shae had this too happen. We were talking about it before we started even recording, that
Yeah.
things happen in your life, and these are things sometimes that you can't control. Like, you got pregnant, you're gonna, like, you have to stop. There's no way that you're gonna be training as normal as if you were not pregnant. You guys are moving to a completely different state. You're from Brazil, you moved already to the US, and then you move to a different state where you're not so close to your friends and the people that you guys were around all the time, where you have to kind of like implement this jiu-jitsu mentality on people because it's not so common, and then you
Hmm.
have to start from zero. And then take that time to build your business as well as get your training going. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
it's completely like, it's understandable, and I know it's hard, and I can imagine of how hard it is, like, to kind of get back into it after so much time of like everything else. And you have two kids now too, so time, it's pretty tight
yeah.
probably for
Uh-huh.
everything.
Uh-huh.
So it's pretty understandable that you have to take this time to kind of get back into it.
I
Exactly.
see there's like a huge like testament to people like me and you, Fernanda, because um I mean, I've had like multiple like obstacles in my way. Like, I'm actually in
Ah.
one right now that has nothing to do
Oh
with
yeah.
jujitsu. And
Okay.
I messed up my knee over the weekend, and I'm like, really, like,
Mhm.
how is this going to like set me back? We have like a Gracie Baja like camp that we're doing next week in Arizona.
Not next week,
So
next month.
next month, yeah. So it's just
Yes.
kind of I don't know. And like my journey, it just feels like I have had anything and everything put in my way to stop me from, kids to house fires to injuries, multiple injuries. I
Mhm.
live like 35 minutes away from the studio now. So it's kind of like, do
Okay.
I change, my studio and my family, or do I drive, So then it's like a huge time commitment. I mean, it's 3 hours of my day. If I decide I'm going to go and train, it's a minimum of
Mhm.
3 hours of my day. So it's like, that's a good chunk in commitment.
Commitment.
But,
Mhm.
I think it's just like the belief and faith and like, this is what I'm going to do. And regardless of what stands in my way, I'm going to continue because I really like it, versus like, oh, this is convenient. I'm just kind of like, it feels good and it's close to the house. And those people that have their journey be very like smooth and within a, a short period of time. I don't know, I like my
Yeah.
journey, and I feel confident in my jiu-jitsu, I think, because of my journey. Like I
Yeah.
feel like I don't have like, oh, I'm not ready for that purple belt. Like I sat in purple or blue for so long that I'm like, I'm good with my purple, and I feel like it's gonna take me a long time to get out of my purple at this point. And so I think by the time I get brown, I'm like, yes, I think I deserve this brown belt. So I don't know. It's just kind of like
For
my
sure.
thought on it.
And you don't want to be any color belt by attendance,
Yeah.
or
Mm-hmm. Yep.
you want to be because you're ready
Your
to
growth.
learn like
Yep.
brown belt stuff
Yep.
or black belt stuff, or
Exactly. No, you
Mhm.
see all those. Well, you see all those people right now, just if you follow all of the jiu-jitsu like threads that are like getting their black belts or brown belts or whatever the belt it is in such a short period of time, you're like, how is that even possible? Because even if you
Mhm.
train 5 days a week, you know what I mean? Like some weeks, some months, like you're not even getting better. You know what I mean? You just trained a lot. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know, to that point,
Mhm.
you don't want it to be rushed. You want it to be a slow process and feel good.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fernanda, we wanted to ask you what came first, jiu-jitsu or nutrition?
Oh, nutrition. Yeah. So I actually have been working as a dietitian or nutritionist for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I started that before, and it's a huge thing in my life. It's very like, and I feel like everything in my work side is very like integrated with my lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So like nutrition and what I do in my house, and at the same time, like jujitsu is also like a business for me. But it's also like what I truly believe, and it's my me time and everything. Um, but yeah, so I feel like, so nutrition, you mean like which one comes first in terms of like what I like the most, or like what came
What?
first, like in time?
No, in time, yes. Like if
Yeah.
you became a nutritionist first and then
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu appeared in your life later,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what happened, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And what do you think, like, that your work as a dietitian and as a nutritionist has
Hmm.
helped in your jiu-jitsu journey? Because we know that like nutrition, it's huge. It's probably one of the most important things in the lives. It doesn't matter if you do jiu-jitsu or not.
Yeah.
Like, you got to
Hmm.
take care of your nutrition. um how do you think that one thing helped the other for you, for your journey?
Yeah, I think nutrition will always like kind of interact on how you show up for things. So if you're eating healthy, so you're eating according to your needs, and like um, if you're mindful about your needs, and if you're mindful, if you're doing enough to get that achieved, um, you're gonna train better, you're gonna recover better, you're gonna sleep better, you're gonna have less like PMS symptoms, you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna, your skin will look better, and everything, actually works better. So um, it's just very, very essential, very fundamental to have like, and it doesn't need to be fancy, because I feel like nowadays it's such a huge thing to have all the supplements and all the fancy like mushrooms and like so it can be hard to navigate in nutrition nowadays, because you feel like you have to get everything, but it's actually um, the basic that it's hard, like the consistency to eat. It's like jujitsu. If you don't get the fundamentals, if you don't have consistency, you're not gonna go anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, I agree totally, because I changed my nutrition completely. I would say in the last like 7-8 years.
Mhm.
I was the type of person that would eat, I mean, I would eat everything still, but I
Mhm.
try to,
Mhm.
like you said, be mindful of what I'm eating most of the time. Um, but I would like drink almost every day, and I would eat just junk food because I was working too much and I didn't have time to be like cooking every day. So I would
Yeah.
get like hot dogs, sandwiches, whatever I could find outside on the streets that I could just like grab and take home, eat really quick, and go to bed so I could go to work the next day. That's what I would do. And I noticed a complete like different change in my life. Like nowadays I still drink, but I don't drink almost, I don't know. I wouldn't even say casually, because during the year, if I'm like competing, if I'm training hard,
Yeah.
there's no time in between for me to drink. Like I can't find a space in there. And for like junk food, for example, I do eat that, but I try to eat maybe on a weekend, every other weekend, and not make that so consistent. And I feel that when I'm eating, like now last 2 weeks for the end of the year, I was eating everything, and then
Oh,
going
yeah.
back to training, like my whole body hurts. I'm like slow, my
Yeah.
head hurts, like everything is different. And when I'm eating healthy, like I feel that I have a better speed, I feel that I can recover better from my training, I can sleep better, like everything works like better for you,
Yeah.
right? So
Because your energy levels are like completely different. So yeah.
you're like giving what your body need in that moment, right?
Yes.
So what does your daily nutrition like habit look like? What does that look like for you?
So I have some things that, and I think that's very important to say. I tell this to all my clients and all my friends. There is no right or wrong thing in nutrition. There is the right thing for you. So the best thing we, especially we as women, we have so many like different hormones, different phases in our cycle, that it's that you're not going to have always the same hunger levels. You're not going to have always the same energy levels or cravings. So we're always changing. And once you learn that you need to know yourself so you can adjust your diet, your exercise, or self-care, whatever, according to you, then you find, okay, now I know like how to eat better because I understand myself. So like during all these years, I noticed that like how I start my day, like if I have a high protein breakfast, that will change a lot of things. So and this is something that it's very common on my practice, to see women eating so much less protein that they should be eating, and this will impact their blood sugar levels. This will impact their immune system and how they recover from exercise, and so many things. So I think once you start, like when I start my breakfast, I try to use like eggs or like a good quality yogurt or a protein powder or something. So I try to make according to what I'm like, craving the day. I try to make sure I have enough protein, especially in the breakfast.
Do you recommend like the powders, for example? Because some people, they're like, it's okay to use. Some people are like, you don't have to use protein powder. It's more like if you need a quick breakfast, for example, then you would go for that.
Yeah, so I think it's like it's convenient, but you don't need to. If let's say if you're doing like a Greek yogurt, depending on like and eggs, you're probably getting there a good amount of protein. But sometimes if you're like in a rush, you just want to do like a smoothie, then you're gonna just add like a protein powder. So the protein powder is also needs to have like good ingredients. So you don't want any artificial like sweetener. And you want something simple. Sometimes collagen peptides can be a good option because they're easy to like mix in anywhere. But you can find like a good plant-based or also like a whey protein that it feels good on your stomach. That's something that you also want to try to see if you feel good. What else? So like for breakfast, that is like, I don't usually snack. It depends on the day. Sometimes if I train Nowadays I train jiu-jitsu mostly during lunch class, like 12 p.m. class. So then sometimes I might need to add a snack like before, like 1 hour before.
Yeah.
What would it be like something that it's ideal for you to have before jiu-jitsu? Especially if,
Yeah.
I don't know if for women there is a different type of like meal that you would recommend, and depending, like you said, on the time of your cycle that you are, like what you would look for. But what would be like a great pre-jiu-jitsu meal?
I think it depends on how long you have between eating and training. So if you don't have a lot of time, something easy and quick to digest. So if you only have 30 minutes, like you're gonna mostly combine like a carbohydrate and a protein in a liquid form. That would be ideal because then it's gonna go down like easily. So like a coconut water blended with like a whey or a protein powder, something like quick like that. Or if you have more time, then anything that you combine, like a protein source with a carbohydrate source, like a slow carb would be ideal. Something with like slow digestion, like fruits or maybe oats or something that you feel good like eating it. But fruits are usually easy and quicker to digest. And then you always want to have your carbs with a source of protein or fat. So you can do like a fruit with Greek yogurt, or you can do like a loaf of like a slice of bread, like a good quality bread. I usually say, when I say high quality, is that I mean like when you're doing like wheat. I mostly recommend organic. So if you can find like a good or a sourdough bread can be a better option too, with like a peanut butter or something like that. So you always want to combine carbs and protein just to have a steady blood sugar levels.
Oh, okay. I was gonna ask, like, why do you combine blood sugar levels?
Yeah. So sometimes like really depends. Sometimes if I only have like a almond milk and a protein powder, I will be good. Sometimes I don't even need, if I had like a good breakfast like 3 or 4 hours ago, I'm not that hungry, but I know I'm gonna train, I'm gonna spar, it's gonna be a while.
Yeah.
Like I just have a protein and I feel good about that.
Okay.
So not always you have to combine a carbohydrate with a protein. It's just like something that will keep you like
Sustained.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Do you think that for somebody that practices jiu-jitsu, like your diet should be different than from somebody that like practice other sports or just lift weights? Like, is there anything different that you should add because of how jiu-jitsu is? Like what, like the type of cardio that we need or something like that? Or no, it would be that kind of like the same type of diet that that person would do if they did another sport? Because I know it changes per person, but I don't know if it makes a difference, like, but because of the sport that you were doing.
No, I feel like it would be it depends on your training. If you train hard, if you do a lot of like you spar a lot, you train very consistently, you're gonna as usual like a good anti-inflammatory diet with a lot of good fats, like with good sources of omega-3, because every sport, I feel like jiu-jitsu have it depending of the training, mostly you're gonna have more inflammation because of the way we train. There's a lot of like the grappling, like it's not it is a gentle art, but at the same time is not, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I feel like there's a lot of inflammation being like triggered as any other combat sports or any other sports that involve weights and things that will trigger inflammation, which is not a bad thing, it's a good thing, because then it's how our muscles will recover and will build up, we need inflammation. But you have to like counter back with like more anti-inflammatory foods, such as like wild caught salmon, good fats like coconut oils and green teas, are very powerful antioxidant, like spices and herbs. Like in your food, when you make food, you make sure you're adding like cilantro, like parsley, like fresh herbs that are very not only good for flavor, but also good for balancing inflammation and things like that. And then lots of vegetable, dark green leaves. They're like really good for you too. And make sure you have like 1, 2 fruits per day. I think it's a good like balance. Especially berries are very high, like the wild berries are very high in antioxidants. So if you're like eating real foods, you're basically eating like well and with natural anti-inflammatory properties.
What I was gonna ask you, it's like, what would be your advice for somebody that's trying to switch from like a I don't care diet to a
Uh-huh.
healthy diet? Because, for example, for me, when I start changing, um, of course, it was something that I decided that I wanted to do, and at the time, that my first thing was like I have high cholesterol in my family, and
Okay.
I did those like blood tests, and I saw that my
Yeah.
cholesterol was high, and that scared me because, like, my dad, for example, he was maybe like on his 40s at the time, and he was already taking medicine for his heart, for his blood pressure, and I was like, if I keep going the way that I'm going, maybe by my 30s I'll have to take medicine, and I don't want to do that, so I better start changing right now. And I was like on my 25, maybe I was 24, 25 when I start changing. And then that was my decision, and that was my why for doing that. And I think because of that, and because of jiu-jitsu, of course, the lifestyle that we have, that helped me stick to it. And again, it doesn't mean that I don't eat bad. I do it. I love eating junk food. It's really hard for me to not eat that. But I have the goals, and that's what's like keeps me true to it. But it's really hard in the beginning, especially as you were like switching those foods and like avoiding the things that you really like to eat, to
Curb the
something that is
cravings.
healthier. There are the cravings. Like, how would you recommend somebody that is like, okay, I'm gonna do this for to make sure that they're gonna be consistent? Because that's like a lot of people do diets that they want to do for 2-3 months, then it's so hard to
Yeah.
keep that up that they're gonna give up and go back to the old habits. Like,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
what is your suggestion on
Yeah.
making sure that you are gonna keep doing that diet?
Yeah, you said something very important that was like my why. It's very important to know why you want to change. Why you want to change your diet. What is going on that is not good enough? How do you feel about that is not like making you happy? I do have like digestive problems, or like you said, you had like something going on in your blood work that kind of like scared you out. Like what is going on? So finding your why is like first step, and it needs to be very clear. And then it's very important to know that there is no like okay, there's like junk foods, but there's the thing about labeling good and bad is just like, it's not helpful. So it's a matter of like consistency on the good, and then it's good to have those food you love, that maybe they might not be as healthy as the other ones, but they are there for another reason. Maybe it's like something that you used to eat when you were like younger, and then it feels good to have that once in a while. And so I think it's important to keep both, and to keep track of how you feel. Like you can journal about it, like, because what will make you stick to your good plan will be the the consciousness about how your body is responding to the changes you're doing. So that will be the main thing that will keep you on track. And then the fact that you know that you can once in a while indulge yourself with something different, it's very good because it's good for your body to have a different stimulus. Sometimes, it's not good to be, and it's even important to say that a lot of us relate a healthy diet with a restrictive diet.
Yeah.
And that's not good, especially for us. We need a certain amount of calories. We need a certain amount of like carbohydrates and vitamins and minerals to function, to have our hormones in place. And it's very cultural for us to think that we need to restrict to be good.
Yeah.
So that's not the right way. So most of the time, I make my clients eat more. And then they start to see results. It's not like I make them eat less, So that's very important. And to have this balance and keep track of like how your body's responding is like it's huge. It's very important. So
I think that's one of the things too that helps a lot. It's when you see those changes. Like you have your why, the reason why you want to start that and you want to do it, and then in like 1-2 months you start feeling and seeing the difference, and you're like, okay, this works, this is good. And like what I did with my nutritionist back at the time, it was like sometimes she would give me a meal plan, and then at some point I would realize like I'm still hungry, like I still feel that I need more, and I would talk to her like, that's not enough, like I need more food, I need more food at this time. Or like, for example, I don't like to eat fruit before training or like when I'm really hungry, because I need something salty. And then I tell her like, don't put a lot of fruits, put something that it's like salty that I can eat before. So that's gonna make me happy, and I'm gonna feel satisfied. So I think it's also important that you like, you kind of, I don't know if having a journal for you to kind of like know what you were eating and how your body's feeling on that, so you can talk to your dietitian, your coach, whoever you're talking to, so they can help you like change those little things. Because again, that's what's gonna make you stick to it. Because if I don't have anything salty on my diet, for example, and I just have the fruit, I'm gonna crave a snack and I'm gonna end up eating chips, and that's not right. So it's like
that's very important, because what I usually say is that I try to make my clients make less mistakes. And the way to do that is making them eat more, like real food, so they crave less. So your crave is always your body like trying to balance something. So if you're like craving lots of sweets, maybe you're very stressed, you're very contracted, you're very tense. And then sweet foods and carbohydrates, they have like they naturally make you more relaxed. So it's usually like, always listen to your cravings, because they're telling you something. So it's not going against your body. It's like listening, like learning how to listen.
What's a salty craving? Like what is that telling you if you have?
It can be like dehydration most of the times. And when I was like listening to you talking, personality is something that will play a huge role. So sometimes like I am more like I crave more sweets, and I like a sweet breakfast. But because my personality is more like I'm agitated, I'm doing a lot of things, I'm always like more tense, and then I crave that. And sometimes people are more like mellow, easygoing, and I'm not saying that the personality will say, but it's just like other things that we do, that and how we are, that kind of. But usually salty things, it can be a preference too, but it can be like a sign of like dehydration. You need more
Because
fluid.
my daughter, like, she loves salt. She will say, Mom, can I have a bowl of salt? With nothing else. Like, she just, and so I'll give like a pinch and I'll put it in a bowl and she'll have her salt. And I'm like, okay, you have to have water with your salt, you know? But it's just,
and
she loves it. She would have a bowl of salt over any sweet any day.
That's me.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
crazy. So that's why I was asking. And she's kind of like Babi. She's very easygoing most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were saying
So
something
fun,
about like being dehydration. That's something that I also learned within time. It's like anytime you are really hungry and you really want to eat something, drink some water 1st. Sometimes you're just thirsty and you don't know that. And a lot of the times, like with the day, like I have my water bottle with me all the time, so I'm remembered to drink water. But like here that I'm not used to cold days, for example, I completely forget to drink water. And then when I realize it's like 3 p.m. and I didn't have a cup of water, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to take like 2 or 3 cups of water right now just to kind of balance that. And a lot of the times when you're hungry, it's just because you're thirsty, or when you're craving something, you're just thirsty, right? So just like drink a little bit of water.
That's why it's so good to start your day with hydration.
Yeah, they
Like
say.
start your day with 2 glasses of water, like room temperature or whatever. It's easier for you to make sure you drink those glasses, because then it will help you, because you're already sleeping for so many hours. So you're already dehydrated, basically. So you're like, it's a good way to start.
I have
go
I have a question. Just because I do focus a lot on my nutrition. Not that I've ever had a nutritionist, but I just have.
You make your own research.
And so, do you ever couple like your services with, going and looking to see like deeper what's going on with people? So, say like the microbiome, or what foods like cause like inflammation and complications. Not necessarily that you're allergic to it, but that it doesn't settle right with your own body. Like things of that nature. Do you couple your work with that?
I focus a lot, like if I can, like I tell all my clients before I schedule the session, I need like blood work to start with. I need blood work. I need to check your vitamin D, your B12. It's very important.
Yeah.
Your iron levels, ferritin levels. I need to see where you are right now.
Yeah.
Because like this is not a real statistic, but like 10 of my clients are deficient in some of those, or maybe all of them. So I start from there. Genetic test is a really good thing, but it's very expensive, so it's not everyone that can afford it, but it can
amazing.
Be really good.
Epigenetics. It's amazing. Sorry, I do that as well. So, so if you need testing, I can help you out at cost.
It's good because it's just like, you're just researching and like finding what you need.
Like journaling and everything is amazing, but it really gets to the like crux of like what's going on with your body, of what you really need to sustain, and not having to take all these different supplements that you necessarily don't need, and you're just flooding your body with stuff that you don't.
Exactly. So
I'm like
I wanted to ask you, when you talked about like the things that you checked on the blood work when you have a new client, like what does that mean? For example, if you have low iron, do you feel anything like, I don't know, let's say I sleep too much, or I sleep and then I'm always tired, like that could be because this thing I'm low in this specific thing.
And
like,
sometimes they're related. So so sometimes like ferritin is your storage of iron inside your cells. And sometimes doctors don't even ask for that. They only ask for hemoglobin, and then sometimes they might ask for iron, because you're only gonna be diagnosed as anemic if your hemoglobin is low. But sometimes they don't check iron or ferritin, or they only check iron, which, it's nothing. You need to check your storage, because if it's lower, or it's a different range. If you use the regular labs range, it's just, very random. So if it's like below the ferritin, for example, you want to be above 50. Ideally 70, but I even don't have that after like the birth and 2 kids. I'm like fighting to get a better iron level, but So you have to check all of those, but sometimes the person tells me like, oh, I'm always tired, always tired. I slept 8 hours and I'm tired.
Mhm.
Like, I don't feel my best.
Yeah.
I already know, but like, let's check.
Yeah.
And then I check her diet, and diet is not, the best. Or there's like a huge digestive problem,
Mhm.
like, always like a lot of pain, like it's very like constantly like struggling or taking some medicines to help that. I already know that the first step of her digestion is not working.
Mhm.
So this will not activate a lot of enzymes and vitamins to start with.
Yeah.
So digestion is like a huge, huge thing
It's
too.
wild how like people, I mean, even how I grew up, I don't know how it is in Brazil, but like being a 80s, 90s child and our parents like being pretty ignorant, I think, of like really what
Oh
is
yeah.
beneficial to the body. And then going into my adulthood, it's like I had no idea what was needed to function properly. You know what I mean? My mom had no idea what was needed to function.
Yeah.
Her mom had no idea. So you have like multiple generations that have no concept of how the body works. And it's like, no wonder, people age so fast, the baby boomers and stuff, as we were talking about before we started. It's just wild to me. It really is. And then I think it's wild that there's so many people out there that don't want to know. You know what I mean? They're like,
Yeah.
oh,
Mhm.
I'm fine. I don't want to look at the ingredients of that.
Yeah.
You
It's a
know?
hard change, it's really
Yeah.
hard, like if you're like you said, if you're so used to eating canned food.
You don't
And
know better.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, think about it, like if you have to go to the grocery store every week to get fresh vegetables, to cook those fresh vegetables and take time to like prep your salad or whatever,
Yeah.
why would you do that? Just go get a can of I don't know,
Yeah.
beans, and eat it from the can, and you're not hungry anymore. It's easier. So
I
it's
think it
really
goes
hard
back
for
to that
you.
why, though, like you were saying.
It
Like
goes
for
back to the
me,
why.
my driver is like my worst fear, other than being raped, is cancer. That's like my worst
Yeah.
fear. And so like
Uh-huh.
my drive is like whatever I can do to make sure my body's running like perfectly healthy so I don't get sick. Like that's what I need to do. So it goes back to your why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing always.
Yeah.
Fernanda, how do you present nutrition to your students at your school, kind of like matching that with jiu-jitsu? Do you do that, or it all depends on the person? Like, how do you do that?
It's funny because I always like help all like, our friends and um my jiu-jitsu I don't know, professors or whatever, but uh, it was always like a natural thing. They would know that that's what I do, aside of jiu-jitsu, but I don't usually sell that or like implement that in the studio. Sometimes they come, like they know, like, on Instagram. And lately I have been a little off of like Instagram just because, it's not a priority right now, just because everything.
Right.
But before I was very active, like posting a lot of like content, and they would like always ask me, oh, can you please help? And then I'm like always happy and open to help. But again, most of the time is like guys, and I like working with guys because they're usually easy. You tell them, "Oh, do this." They will be doing that forever, and that's it. And then with us, it's always different. We always need more adjustments, and there's so many things that will interact with our like needs. So it's just like um, my what I love doing is like working with women. That's where I find my why
Yeah.
too.
Aw.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. Fernanda, we like to ask everybody at the end of our interviews. The name of our podcast is BJJHOOD. So we wanted to know for you what BJJHOOD means.
Well, I feel like Jiu-Jitsu creates like a huge sense of community and belonging, and you kind of connect with people. Especially I feel like the girls that go there on the mats, they get sweaty and they train hard, like you already connect with them for some reason. And I feel like and moving from from country and in states, and feeling at home again in such a short time of period. And I can tell that jiu-jitsu is like this really like this brotherhood, this like sisterhood, like it provides that like this. And I think that that's huge.
That's awesome. If anybody wants to use your services as dietitian, how should they contact you?
Through my website, there's like, unfortunately, it's everything in Portuguese. No, there's some in English, but there's a contact on my website, and sometimes even through Instagram, I can, go over the first steps and everything.
We'll leave your website here on the information of the episode if anybody wants to check that out. And like she said, if you don't speak Portuguese, you can always send her an email or a DM on Instagram there on the website. And she's going to be able to help you out too. Fernanda, again, thank you so much for taking your time today, sharing some knowledge here with us.
Yes.
I love it. Thank you.
Yes, and if you're listening to this episode, make sure you share with somebody that can learn something from us here today. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, on YouTube, and on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss any of the new episodes every Thursday. I'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Would you like to share your story? Email us at bjjhoodpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at BJJHOOD Podcast.